Have you ever played a game with building or decorating and felt hopelessly stuck on what to do with all the space you have? Or how to properly execute any of your ideas? Well, that was pretty much me in every single game ever until Pokopia arrived. Its game design is the best I've ever seen in the genre at squeezing creativity even from people that feel like they never had any, and after thinking about it a lot, I believe I managed to pinpoint the strategies that the game uses to do so. And that's precisely what I wanted to share with you in this video and hopefully get your thoughts on all of this. Before we go any further though, I need to tell you that this video will not contain story spoilers. However, Pokemon you might not know are in the game may appear in the footage. I will also show more than just the first region. Not all of them, and the ones that I do show, I'm only gonna show parts of them, but still, the point is that if you want to play without knowing anything, you might want to come back to this video later. So, I think the first thing that we have to get out of the way is, why is this a discussion that I consider to be important? Why am I choosing to talk to you all about this topic? Well, there's the obvious reason that I am really enjoying Pokopia and I just want to talk about the game as much as humanly possible, and since absolutely none of my friends are playing it, my YouTube channel will have to do as an outlet. But it also goes beyond that. I've played a lot of games in which I can build and slash or decorate stuff, and I just always fizzle out in them. Minecraft, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, you name it, I've probably tried, enjoyed, and then stopped playing the game as soon as all that was left was building my world up, despite me actually loving the games. And the reason for that is simply that I get overwhelmed with the space available to me. Even when I can come up with ideas, and sometimes I have a whole base planned out in my head, I lack the creativity and building knowledge to actually execute any of it. So naturally, I go online to look at references made by other players, which usually ends up completely demotivating me, the opposite of what it was meant to accomplish. It shouldn't, but it does, as all I can think is, man, how can I ever build something this beautiful when I have the building abilities of a nesting pigeon? And then Pokopia arrived. At the time of writing, I already have dozens of hours into the game, and for the first time ever, I'm actually managing to build my world up, specifically the first zone for now. And the truth is, I do not see myself stopping. I suspect many of you will relate to my struggles and hopefully you'll learn a bit more about the solutions that I found in Pokopia. This is why I feel like this is a topic that should be explored. Well, that and the fact that, in my opinion, more games should learn from what Pokopia did well in this department. It's not perfect, nothing is, but it managed to motivate me when no other game did, and that's enough for me. So how does the game manage to squeeze creativity out of pretty much anything? And which mechanics and characteristics can you use in your favor to help with your building? Let's get into it. As you probably already know, Pokopia has you rebuilding a world that's been destroyed by, well, that's not important for this video. What is important is that this world used to be inhabited by humans and Pokemon, and it used to be a thriving society until it wasn't. This is important because humans have left their mark, and every region you come across serves as proof of that. Throughout your journey, you're gonna find destroyed structures, debris all over the place, and all sorts of crazy stuff that you're better off experiencing yourself. And this is perhaps the main point that Pokopia does to help people like myself who get overwhelmed with a blank canvas. It doesn't give you a blank canvas, it gives you a ruined one. That may sound like the same thing, but believe me, there is a critical difference here. If you're given a blank canvas, all you can do is work on a painting from the ground up. But if you're given one that has had parts of it ruined, you can either scrap the whole thing and start anew anyway, or you can restore the ruined parts and end up with a painting that may be just as beautiful as the ones painted from zero. Look, I know it was a weird analogy, but I hope it got the message across. Anyway, that's precisely what I find myself doing in this game. I know for a fact that I would get overwhelmed if I was given a completely empty area, but since in Pokopia you get a rough idea of what the city used to look like, and even the outlines of where some buildings used to be, working on restoration instead of creation becomes a much less daunting task. In my mind, I'm working in hopes humans will return one day, and wouldn't they feel better returning to a place that feels familiar? As such, if I find a ruined house, I restore it using the same materials and then develop the rest of the region by using the already restored houses and streets as a baseline. I've only worked on one region so far, but given that I've been there for like over 50 hours, I think it's safe to say this strategy is working. And hey, if you don't want to restore and instead you just want to create from scratch, you can do that too. That's the best part about Pokopia in my opinion. It guides those who need help with being creative and building, while still allowing those who don't need the help to do whatever their hearts desire. But I hear you saying, well, okay, that might help me with planning out my city, but when I'm only given an outline of a building or in the spaces in which I'm given no guidance, I still have no clue what or how to build anything. And yeah, I feel the struggle, but thankfully Pokopia accounted for that as well. This is where the brilliance of the prefab system comes into place. If you can't build houses, you don't have to. Just ask your Pokemon to do it for you. There are a lot of options for builds and a lot of them look great. I haven't tried doing this yet because I've actually been enjoying challenging myself to try to make half-decent manual houses, but I'm willing to bet that a city full of prefab houses would look great. And the houses wouldn't necessarily look the same either. You can add a yard, which, yes, requires creativity, but at least to me creating a small yard is a lot less daunting of a task than creating a whole house, and you can paint multiple parts of your prefab houses, which helps give each one a unique personality. Plus, as I said, there are lots of options, so you can just limit yourself to using one prefab design per city or something. And while I haven't unlocked everything in the game, I can already tell that the prefabs don't stop at houses. You can also have your Pokemon build decorated areas and stuff like that. I don't know if there are many options, but even if there aren't, it still helps. So, with the prefab system, your work goes from figuring out what, how, and where to build something, to simply figuring out where you want something, which, if you're anything like me, is a lot more manageable. But the guidance doesn't stop there. So far, we've mostly talked about restoration and creating buildings, but if you're trying to build something from zero, like, say, a park, and you have no idea what to put there, well, there's help for you too. And this is the guidance that I'm using the most, aside from the whole restoration thing I mentioned: the habitats. While the game may have you think that they are solely for attracting Pokemon, I feel as though that's almost its secondary use. The main use that I'm getting out of them is using the habitat decks as a catalog of mostly good looking mini builds that I can apply to my world. So in the case of the park I mentioned, if I'm building a park and I have no idea what to put in there, well, I can simply open my habitat decks and see what habitats I can find that fit into the theme. And I'm giving this example because it's precisely when I realize how powerful the habitats are for people who struggle with coming up with stuff to put in their world, like myself. The park that you're seeing on screen right now is what resulted from the exercise I just talked about, and if you take a close look at it, you'll see that there are quite a few habitats that I crammed in there. I won't spoil what they are in case you have no idea, but if you know them, you're gonna spot them. And while I use the park as an example, if you look at me walking through my city, you're bound to see quite a few more. I really did put them everywhere, using my habitat decks as a guide on how to fill up my world. And while I'm on this topic, I also want to point out that the way the game naturally leads you to discovering habitats is brilliant. Stuff like, I don't know, the game telling you that 4 tall grass is a habitat, and then you walk around, see 3 tall grass next to a tree, and plant a 4th tall grass, only to organically discover a whole new and different habitat, which is, you know, the tree shaded one. Or you see a birdhouse with an empty plate nearby and decide to put food on the plate, only to find a new habitat. The game is full of half-built habitats, and finding them is a thrill every time, and it encourages you to keep coming up with new ideas to interact with your environment, which is also, by the way, a way to exercise your creativity. And if you feel like you're not really one to explore your environment and thus feel afraid that you might be missing out, don't. The game once again has your back. If you don't find the habitats organically, the game has ways to outright tell you what the habitats you haven't built are. Are you seeing now how many strategies are in place to incentivize your creativity? And I'm not even done. You've probably realized that items in this game have a description to go alongside their category. Well, when they have a category anyway, they may not have one sometimes, but they always have a description. What you may not have realized though is that some of these descriptions, and it really is some unfortunately, I wish this was the case for every single one of them, have ideas on how you can use the items within builds. I don't think I've ever seen this done in a game before, and it really is appreciated. The screen should be showing some blocks and stuff that have the hints that I mentioned. Stuff like this door that apparently pairs well with gorgeous furniture, or the flat brick roof, which says that when you make a roof flatter, it looks nice and stylish. Or even the fact that dark marble flooring is perfect for museums and the like. Look, I know a lot of these are obvious, but if you pay attention to the description, you might just find the occasional good idea that you hadn't considered sprinkled in there amongst the obvious stuff. It doesn't help much, but hey, any help counts when you're not really good with building or having ideas for builds. For me, the description that first inspired me was the one for the brick borders, which suggests using the item to create a stylish border for grass, flowers, and crop fields. Now I'm using borders to line all my backyard flower patches and it looks great. And hell, even their own classifications, when they have one, can offer hints on how to use the items, as well as what they will be used for by the Pokemon that interact with said items. For example, you know relaxation items will be used for Pokemon to rest, so you might want to avoid putting them in places where you don't want Pokemon to sleep. And there's one more thing I want to mention, but it's a bit spoilery as it refers to this region's true identity, so skip ahead if you would rather not know anything about the maps that you play in this game. This video has chapters, so you can just skip to the next one. There's still a couple more sorted things I want to say. Alright, on to the spoilery bits. The game takes place in a region most Pokemon players are well familiar with, Kanto. Now, you might have groaned when you heard of this, as some people, myself included, have Kanto fatigue. But Pokopia was a very pleasant surprise even in its region, and it being set in Kanto actually contributed to my creativity. And I have a feeling I'm not the only one who will be impacted like this. So far, I can only speak for the first region of the game since that's the only one that I've actually terraformed, but knowing which city I was seeing and how much it had changed instantly gave me the idea to restore it to its original state. Not just restore it via the ruined buildings like I talked about before, though that's also being done, but rather try to incorporate as many elements of the original city we know from the Kanto games into this new region. So the fact that the game is set in a region I, for better or worse, know well is helping inspire me, because now I know that I want the first region in Pokopia to have a safari zone, like Fuchsia did, to have buildings that have their design inspired by the originals from Fuchsia, to have a center that's loosely based on the original Fuchsia city, so on so forth. So to recap, while building my first city, I can 1. Repair the buildings and roads that already exist and build off from there. 2. For the areas that have nothing, I can create things based off the original city from the original games, and both this and the previous point follow the lore of wanting to rebuild the broken world. 3. For the areas in which I have a general idea of what I want, like the park, but don't know how to populate or build it, I have the habitats and item descriptions to help kickstart my ideas. And 4, for when I actually really don't know how to build anything, I have prefabs that I can use and that are going to look amazing. Do all of these measures guarantee that you will have no trouble at all building stuff? Certainly not, I'm still getting stuck. But I have so many tools to help me that it's actually a lot easier to get my creative juices flowing again. And for the first time ever, I'm actually having ideas and managing to get them off my head and into the game. There's still the matter that I talked about of me comparing myself to other people who are way better at building, but that's a mental exercise that I think I have to face on my own. I will say this though, getting ideas off my head and into the game is helping me not compare my work with other people's, because while I might come across gorgeous buildings in other people's worlds, I'm still really happy with what I'm doing with mine, and that happiness is stopping me from feeling discouraged. So I don't see myself quitting the game anytime soon. I never imagined the Pokemon game of all things would be the one to get my creativity going, but I'm really happy that it did, and I hope it's having the same effect for a lot of you. A couple more things I haven't mentioned but that also help with the creativity problem are the Pokemon themselves and the transformations that you get. As silly as it may sound, I grew up playing Pokemon, I learned English pretty much from these games, and I love seeing the creatures that I grew up with enjoying the town that I built or interacting with each other, which is often hilarious, by the way. Wanting to see what other Pokemon I can find also motivates me to build more because I want more habitats. But I don't want to just throw habitats everywhere. No, I want them to fit into my city. And as such, me wanting to build them inspires me to build new parts of my city. Regarding the transformations, some people may find building boring, and the game once again helps those people by offering transformations that facilitate the process. I won't spoil them, but I'll give you an example with the Dragonite transformation that the trailers revealed. Being able to glide to the top of a building without having to scaffold up is awesome. Sure, this is provided you have somewhere higher up to glide from, but you get what I mean. And this is a tool that helps perhaps the least. There's others that really make destroying and building things a much better process and are actual game changers. One last thing that I want to share that's more of a personal tip is, if you're struggling with ideas of things to build, write down a list of things you notice in your own town or city, like, you know, the real life one. I have a list of possible important buildings I can build, like hospital, jail, town hall, library, cafe, restaurant, public bathroom, a totally not evil secret laboratory, etc. And looking at this list often helps me figure out my next project, especially when I place it in the context of the city that I'm trying to restore. Would a library fit in the city given what I know about it? Would a game corner fit in the city? Thinking like this helps me build a cohesive city. That's what I feel anyway. So yeah, that's about all I wanted to share. Please do let me know what you thought of the video, if you learned something new, if you're enjoying the game, and especially if you have any tips on how to get your creativity going. I would love to read your thoughts. That aside, I do hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want more, stick around because I hopefully am going to do a tour of my first region whenever I get it done. I have big plans for it, so it might take another week or two or who knows how long, but provided nothing goes terribly wrong in my life, I'll get there. And while I don't have any other videos about Pokopia specifically, I do have multiple videos analyzing different aspects of Pokemon games, so you might find some enjoyment there. You can find them in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you hopefully in the next video. Bye bye!